Welcome to the Sisterhood of Sweat. Today's guest is Joe Fier. Joe Fier is the co-founder of Evergreen Profits and co-host of the popular business podcast, Hustle and Flowcart. Joe invests his digital marketing career into connecting with entrepreneurs and creating solutions together to make a large impact. He advises businesses on marketing strategy and sales conversion to increase revenues. He consults and creates long-term selling assets for clients, which has generated over $50 million in revenue online. He runs a marketing and tech consulting company and a full-scale content marketing agency. Today, we talked about pivoting during the coronavirus and building and creating a community. This is the time to do it. Everybody's looking for connection, and the more you can create that in your business, the better off you're going to be when this is all over, and it will be over at some point. He talked a lot about consistency and how it provides trust and stability, and it just helps also create that community if you can be really consistent in whatever you do, whatever messaging, whatever ways you communicate. And he helps us with strategies to move forward after all of this. So building your strategy now sets you up for later. Kind of like how all the stores always get ready for Christmas way ahead of time before Christmas ever hits. That's how we have to really think about our businesses. He also talks about creating relationships. That's what really builds your platform, the consistency, creating the relationships, creating connection. All of that helps to build your platform. So like when he has a podcast guest, he really thinks about it more in terms of how can we build a relationship. And I think that could translate to any business that you're in. Instead of thinking about it from the terms of what can I get out of it, or what is this person going to do for me? How can I create a working relationship? And you guys are going to love him. He's just like your guy next door, your best friend. Just feels so welcoming. He was awesome today. Joe rocks. So look forward to this podcast and make sure to give his a listen as well. Hey, everybody. I am really excited today to welcome Joe Fier to the show.
Hey, Linda. How you doing?
Great. Amidst all this hubbub, going on with everybody having to scramble because we're not even allowed to work, right?
Right. Are we even essential? Come on.
I mean, I am working, but I'm just saying, I never thought I'd see that happen in my lifetime. It was one thing I could always do.
Yeah. I know. It's like you can't really stop an entrepreneur from working, Luckily for us, we're graced with the internet, and not having to. And I feel like I'm working harder than ever now, but I guess you shouldn't be telling the government that.
I told my husband, I said, now people don't have an excuse not to show up because I'm doing Zoom workouts.
Are you? Smart. See, you pivoted. I mean, were you doing that beforehand?
No.
I
was not. I was only doing podcasts via Zoom. And then I recognized that it actually I feel like made people feel more like a community because I invited, since I have the webinar, invited each person on so you can see everybody and we all chat and we do the workout.
I have a coach as well. I get remote coached, but there is a physical location and he's doing the same thing. He's doing like even just coffee chats. Like he'll do things at like 10 in the morning, every other day. And he'll get, maybe 5-10 people on there, but it's a great community builder, and these are the people that you want to stay trusted by you. You want to have their trust. So when you can actually leave your house, they're going to show up.
I think they really, what I did is at first I felt a little freaked, but then I was like, Okay, we'll just do whatever we can do to help everybody. Everybody's feeling the same way. And then as soon as I started reaching out and helping them in whatever way I could, they were so appreciative that
Mm.
because everybody's in the same boat right now.
Yeah, yeah, and we could chat more about that because we're doing a ton of strategies, different tweaks to the business that are great for now, but I think are gonna like really bring some good effects in terms of community, branding, trust building, all that stuff for the upcoming months after we get through this little wave or big wave, really.
Oh my gosh. Well, I know you guys listened a little bit to the intro, but I'm not sure if it really does Joe justice with everything he does with his podcast, the Hustle and Flow chart, and his Evergreen Traffics Playbook that he has out that he's going to offer later on as we
Mhm.
chat to you guys. But I just want you to tell them a little bit of your backstory about how you ever got started into the podcasting space.
Yeah, no, it's an interesting story, and it started. Got full time online around 2008 or so, and since then, what podcasting we started. And I say we I have a co-host, Matt Wolf. So we actually kind of started everything at the same time, even though we've kind of fluctuated in and out of as being business partners. 2010 was our first podcast, and what got us into it, I think, is honestly this. We always like to connect with new people and learn new things, and then we realized we just like to communicate what we learn, just kind of regurgitate it in our own language. And it wasn't until recently we realized that we did a lot of YouTube videos back in the day. Matt and I did, and they were horrible. We were like in his garage. It was on a Friday night. We'd have some beers around here. I know it's a workout type, healthy people podcast. But like we were drinking Corona beers. No pun intended at all.
Oh, I
But
know, I know.
but yeah, and don't drink Coronas anymore either. But times have changed. But the idea, they were just horrible videos. But I think that really like got us interested in communicating our ideas, putting our own perspectives on what we learned, and we carried that over into starting our own podcast. We've had 3, and none of them really like had longevity because we had bad systems and a whole bunch of mistakes that we can get into if you want. But Hustle and Flowchart's been around 3.5 years or so, almost 300 episodes, and that is twice a week, hour long each. So it's a ton of content, but it's our baby. Like it's our favorite part of the business, and it's opened up so many doors. It's ridiculous what it's done for ourselves.
I love that. Well, tell me some of your mistakes you've made because, I have a lot of people out there that have thought about starting a podcast. They just started one.
Yeah.
They're in the middle of it. And I think
Yeah.
it's good to kind of hear the mistakes so you don't do them or so you can be like, oh, he did it too. Okay, there's hope for me.
Yeah. So I'll tell you the biggest mistake that had those previous shows flop or kind of just fizzle off was just the lack of consistency. And this is said pretty often, but I don't think people really realize the impacts of the lack of consistency in a show. And even if it's just once per month, I mean, I probably wouldn't recommend that because that's not that consistent. But let's say once a week, a lot of shows will try to go crazy and like I'm going to do a daily show or I'm going to do 3 or 4 times a week. It's like, pump the brakes. Hold on. Like, let's get the training wheels going a little bit here. And because we're humans, we like expectations. We like a schedule, even though if we're not schedule people, we kind of like in our minds, we know, hey, the Simpsons. I used to love the Simpsons back then. Like they come on every Tuesday at 8 or whatever, a new episode. I'm going to watch. I'm going to be there. Like we still have that in our brains. So you want to create a schedule that's consistent. And then, so I'd say consistency, but also systems, just very basic, like checklists. If you can just do that for yourself, we don't get ourselves in the middle of editing and doing all the production and posting and all that. But, if you were to do that yourself, just have a simple checklist that you can stay consistent with again. And, there's a lot of little things I would say that, they're not difficult. It's not difficult to publish your own podcast at all or create content, but just make sure that you have organization around what you're doing. Even if you're working with a team, it's good to have, okay, I put it in the Dropbox here, send it to Julie, or, Julie's going to edit and send it back to me, or she's going to post it on this day, and just simple little things, and then just get the wheels moving. And those have been like the biggest flops. I mean, I'd say the biggest mistake we also had that's different than those are there was one day we batch record all of our shows. So we record about 3 to 4 episodes per day when we batch record, which is like twice a month. So we kind of try to knock everything out in like these groupings of time, which just makes our lives easier. So we're not always having to think about the podcast.
Right,
And there,
batching is a great way. I do that for food prep. I mean,
there you
just
go.
batch it
Yeah.
all. I get
Yeah.
all of my food and my husband's food done in an hour
Oh my God.
for
I
the
need
week.
to have your process. You should have a guide on that if you don't. Um, yeah, no, I mean, so that's a prime example. Like, just think of this like work that it's kind of daunting work, or it could be a lot. But if you batch record, like, just get yourself in the mindset, block all the distractions, and make sure that you have a plan to, what you're going to do during that chunk of time. You can get a lot done in a short period of time. And we do that with our podcast. We record, now we're twice a week. It started off as just once a week show. We would get all those episodes done in one day. And then like we'd forget about our podcast, which was great. But the key
You
thing
get
that
disconnected from it, right? If you
yeah,
leave it on the shelf too long, you feel disconnected from your product.
you do. Yeah. And I guess that's a blessing and a curse because you're not stuck in like, always have to create. But then like what's nice is like if you just get the creation done and then
You can
you
do
focus
the
on like,
other stuff.
yeah, the marketing or community building,
Yeah,
you
the
can
community
focus there.
building.
But make sure you have redundancies with your recording. That was the big, like, it happened in one day and we lost all 4 recordings that we had with people. And now we have like crazy redundancies on Zoom and physical recorders like on our desk when
Oh
we're
my
recording.
gosh, I know what you're saying. Have you ever forgotten to push record?
Actually not, no, but I've definitely been on podcasts where they have. And
Oh my gosh, I have forgotten to push record, but because I used to always do a live version, I got it off of the Facebook Live, but I still
smart.
remember the first time where I forgot to push it.
It happens to the best of them. I mean, and here's the cool thing is if you're just honest, like we were with the 4 people we flopped and had to re-record with, every single one of them, no questions. They were just like, yeah, I'll do it again. And actually the interviews came out way better, which is interesting.
It is, it is. I found that too. Like if you ever, I don't know, like when I first I'm one of these people that I show up, like if I say I'm going to be there, I'm going to be there.
Sure.
I'm consistent, I'm persistent. But in this space, you have to get adjusted to that. Not everyone is. And so if somebody cancels, you got to make use of that time. What I found is I always just thought I'm going to do a better interview with them because I'm going to research them way more and I'm going to be more prepared than I was today. And flip it,
Yeah. I mean, that's pretty much the same as us. We're always, we have a system, we have reminders, and we have all these things in place to make sure that we are staying on schedule. And like our no-show rate on a podcast for a guest is probably like, I mean, it's like 1%. I think out of like the 300.
I'd say that's probably pretty close where I'm at.
Yeah. I mean, so that means that you have your systems dialed, and I know you do.
When I first started, though, I did not have a system. I was just trying to figure this stuff out.
That's right. But yeah, those would be my recommendations without getting too, detailed about things. Those are like the broad strokes that will probably bring you a lot more success, even though they're not like sexy sounding or anything.
Well, I really have to laugh because I had the same conversation with my husband today about consistency. It's like I'm consistent right now. At 5:30 a.m. I am up with everybody, my peeps, at the crack of dawn every morning.
Wow.
And so I'm like, I got to have a consistent bedtime. It's, I got to have structure. So you can't like say this night I'm staying up late, this night I'm not. I'm like, it's just all over the place.
Yeah.
And I think it leads to making you feel peace, stability, security, like all kinds of things come with that consistency. And I think people place their trust in you when you're consistent, when you show up, when you say you're going to be there, when they look for you, there's an episode, you're building your brand right there.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. That's and with systems and recurring things, and if you layer on teams on top of that, you can be exponentially consistent to the world. Like to other people's eyes, you can look like you're just a freaking machine. And you're like, how does Linda do this all? How does Joe and his team produce this amount of content? And it's like, well, it literally comes down to consistency and systems like this. It's exactly
Yeah.
that. And it can make you look like you have this massive team or this superpower that people just want to learn from you more, and they kind of can't get enough of you because you're an anomaly. Like I feel like you do show up in a different place, and you show up in many places where people maybe aren't thinking about.
Well, let's talk strategy for a second. I will just say I am like all heart. Like I am all heart. When I compete and I do fitness competitions, I'm all heart. When I do boot camp, when I did Navy SEAL obstacle courses, when I'm doing Spartans, or if I'm, at the gym or I'm podcasting and I'm speaking or something, I'm all heart. What I need is strategy, because I'm not a strategist. And what I feel like you guys have, why you've went with your third podcast to the top of the charts, why you're having success, is strategy. So help us all out there.
Yeah. So what kind of strategy can I dig in, or like, is there one that's I can kind of go off on, just like our vision, I guess, and how the strategy comes to be? Maybe that's
I like that. That sounds
I could do
good.
that. Yeah. So with everything, and keeping on the podcast vein, we've always wanted to make a platform for ourselves, like create a platform where we can more or less control the communication. And, a platform you can relate, like Facebook's a platform, Amazon's a platform, Tim Ferriss or Joe Rogan have a platform. So, with a platform, like our elements, I probably won't list them all, but the podcast is like the most crucial part of it. But then, our email list is huge. Our Facebook group has become, it's almost like in a weird way eclipsing our email engagement at this point. It's just insane right now, the Facebook group, with the kind of communication that we can do there. But that allows us these little buckets, and we have retargeting. We do a lot of ads online. All of these little areas are ways that we can communicate and connect further with folks, and give them more content, ask questions, give them offers, things that solve their problems right there where they're at. So that whole platform mindset has always been in our mind since actually starting the Hustle and Flowchart podcast. Like we didn't want to rely on iTunes or Spotify to be the ones that grow our platform. We have the confidence in ourselves and our community that we will grow this. It might take a little longer, but we're going to have a much higher quality of community around us that supports us. Even if, and I feel like our content's really good, at least we're told that, even if we didn't have the best kind of content, just think about the connection. Like people will stick up for you. If you might maybe, put something bad out there, they're not going to rip you apart. They're going to probably just text you like, hey, that probably isn't the best topic or something to try. Like, how about this? That's what we've done really well. And so that's like the big strategy, I guess, if you want to call that. But then we have these little micro strategies that help feed the growth of that platform. And right now I'd feel like we're really tripling down on our platform growth and connection with all the people that are stuck at home now, that are looking for, they're looking for stability and a guide that can kind of take them through not only now, but for the future. And that's where I think the power of a platform really lies, because that gives you're the person that's bringing people together. You're the authority, you're the guide, you're the one that people are looking for, consistent knowledge and education that will get them through whatever issues they have at this point and beyond.
Yeah, and I want to talk a little bit about that. Like the platform is such a huge thing, and I think not to be taken lightly. Like when you start building this, maybe you are starting small. We all start small because that's just the way it works.
Yeah.
But you're building this platform, and it gives you such a voice, I mean,
it's insane. And then you start layering on, because we don't try to do everything ourselves. We leverage and we work with our network. So our peers, our partners, whoever. We have so many people now from the podcast. I mean, just that alone is a big benefit for having a show. I mean, just think of the Rolodex you now have to you can easily, I can pick up the phone to almost every single person who's been on our show. A lot of these folks weren't our friends beforehand, but now we've added them to our platform. We've kept communication up with them. We've sent them cool things just out of the blue, like, just to be a cool person. Like, we're relationship builders. And when you think about it, now we have the support of all these people who have their own audiences. And it's like this exponential thing that you can grow. I mean, just with a podcast alone. But then if you start thinking like platform, like, oh,
that.
well, that person can give me content to solve this person's problem, or I could do a live stream with them now. Like, we just did a big live stream on Friday, and it had like 10 people on there, and they're all like the top of marketing online right now. And all I did was just text them, and literally it was like 3 days later, I had 10 people agreeing to this. I knew they're all stuck at home. So I was like, hey, I get like 20, 30 minutes of your time. And then we just freaking did a 6-hour live stream that people loved. And we're going to keep doing more of them.
I love that. And you're basically, you're building, you're making people expand their mind a little bit, because I think they may not recognize the power of it, the strength of it, how big it could grow, and how it's so much more than just you. And I just love like how you're kind of broadening our horizons by really making us realize that it is about building a network and building connections, not only with your audience, but with the people that come on your platform.
Yeah. I mean, we're all people at the end of the day. We're looking for connection and support and feedback.
Right,
yeah, especially now. And it's so crazy, because even still now, I feel like there's more community than ever now. But still, like, there are a lot of folks that forget there's a human on the other side of this email I'm about to send, or this Facebook message, or this Facebook ad that I'm about to run. It's like, just remember their wants and needs, and those wants and needs have probably shifted massively in the last like few weeks here, from like what we thought they really needed in times of, prosperity and all that stuff, and no fear of getting sick or whatever. Now those wants and needs have completely shifted to something different, that's more stability, structure, or making sure that tomorrow, security of finances or health, and just
toilet
mindset.
paper.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, exactly. It's crazy. I know. Yeah. The simple things are now wanted. So
6 feet distance.
Yeah, big hula hoops or whatever.
I saw some guy walking with a big cardboard box, and he was in the middle with his mask and the whole through the city.
I believe it.
Well, what are some strategies? Because I know, like, at first we were all just in the survivor mode, but this will end at some point. What could we be doing now to help ourselves in the future? What are some ways?
Yeah. So I would say a big focus on community is probably the biggest thing we're looking at now. So when I say that is, reaching out to the top customers that you have right now, the people that are paying you consistently for any kind of recurring revenue, going after the most recent buyers that you've had in the last, say, month or even longer, depending on how many you have. And, looking for, so the people that have spent the most recent, just anyone who's recurring, that's always seeing you. Maybe your top engagers in, say, a Facebook group, or people that write to you, or people that post on your behalf to give more value to your group. These are all the people that, what I would do is literally whip out your phone and use any of the, whatever platform you communicate in, send them a video. And this is something that our buddy Dennis Yu says, that he just sends 15, 30-second long videos just to say, kind of like a check-in, just like, hey, how you doing? I just want to make sure you're good. Let me know if I can help you with anything. Maybe do something personalized that, obviously it's a personalized video because you're going to say their name. Don't do a, copy and paste across the board, because people know that. But you can use all the built-in video options, or I use Loom, Loom. So that's a little app that you can download for your desktop if you want to show your screen and your camera. Is it a
free app, or?
I believe there's a free tier. I think after a while you can. Right. It's very minimal.
Somebody told me to use BombBomb or something. I was
one.
looking into it.
Yeah, BombBomb, Bonjoro, I think is another one. I use Loom. And I just like that because it kind of like I could do everything. I could do my screen, show my screen, show a process with my video. Like we do this with our sales, any personalization, like that's going to go so long right now. It already has, but like now more than ever, if you just start reaching out to people just, unexpectedly, maybe send them something in the mail, but you don't even have to do that. Like just pick up the phone and send them a video or an audio if you're scared to be on video, even though you
Isn't
shouldn't be.
that so weird? But that is so intimate, like
It
writing a
is.
letter and doing a video like that. And it's, I think you feel a little vulnerable, a little
Mm-hmm.
exposed the first time that you actually send it to your audience.
Yeah.
I was doing all these lives, I was speaking, I was on podcasts, but for some reason, when it came to doing that, I wrote this letter and I put funny little gifs in it, and then I didn't send it right away because I was like, oh my god,
Uh-huh.
this is, you know.
Yeah, you
And
start
then
thinking,
after
yeah.
I did, I got all these responses. I loved your letter. I loved your
Mm.
email. Like, but it's just this thing. Like, I don't know why I got stuck in it, but
We
it.
all get stuck in something like that. Yeah. I mean, I notice like I'll work quicker in a weird way through my emails or any kind of messages on my phone rather than on my computer. I don't know why. I overthink it if I try to like type the right thing. But like on my phone, I'll just go like, all right, done, cool, did the trick. But even better, like using something like Loom, and maybe it's just me, but I'm able to just, all right,
The
start a
video, you could just talk. Yeah.
just
Like,
talk.
no, like, yeah.
Yeah, and I know that's my personality. It's exactly what you would get here on this call, but just
Yes.
on
I
and
love
if
that.
people love you already and know, like, and try, like they're not gonna they're already just wowed that they're getting a video. So just like you win, just by hitting send. And think about the trust that you're building now for like because sure some people are doing that. You're seeing all these companies send emails that are like, here's what we're doing during the COVID-19, blah blah blah, and it's like, okay, cool. Don't be one of them. Like send a
Yeah.
message.
Canned
Go,
presentation. You're right. You're right.
yeah, break out of the norm. If you ever like if you have their phone number, text them. Like I would start at the most intimate level, the closest part, and then expand out to like social media, but not on their page, like email or message them, or Instagram them, LinkedIn, whatever. Anything to break through to them on a personal level.
Yeah, because I know I dump a lot of mass email marketing in the garbage. Like,
Hmm.
if it's just a generic email that, I don't know, like it's just, you know what I'm saying? Just like
Oh
what you
yeah.
were saying about the video.
Yeah.
I think you got to speak to your people directly, and that, even if it's not a long message, means more.
Oh, I mean, that's the thing. You're just going for the connection. I think right now you're not trying to solve a problem. It's more like the way that we're doing it is, hey, Julie, yeah, I hope you're doing well. Hope you're healthy and happy and all that stuff. I'm thinking about you. I just wanted to thank you for being part of the community. Reach out if I can help you with anything. We got a lot of stuff going on and we're here for you. So chat soon. Bye. And like that was 20, 30 seconds or so.
It's so much better than radio silence because you don't know what to do, I think.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
A lot
But
of
think about
times people are stuck in that.
yeah. Yeah, that's waiting, right? You don't want to be the one waiting on the sidelines right now. That's probably the absolute worst thing you could be doing right now or anytime really.
Yeah, because being done is better.
Uh-huh.
Like, just
And
doing it.
momentum.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it always feels good, even if it sucks and it's like not the best version of your video. I've sent out a lot of crappy things, but like, we're always the most self-critical, of our own stuff. So just get it out there. Like, what's the worst thing that's going to happen? It's just you being ashamed of yourself, but then you're only doing it to yourself, not them
Well, I just think about the first version of the first logo I had, or
Oh.
the first website I built, and just like going back to that. But I will have to say it was very organic, and I had a lot of great content. I wrote it. So it was more me.
Yeah.
So sometimes you got to find that happy medium so that it is somewhat organic, but it looks polished.
I mean, that's so important actually that you say that, because I think a lot of us included, when we started our Hustle and Flowchart podcast, it was, even though it might not have come off this way, it was very structured for us. Like we had all these detailed notes. We even had questions that were pre-done and yet, and it's like now, holy crap. Like we definitely review every guest and make sure we know who we're talking to, and we're knowledgeable with what they're doing, but we don't have any preset questions. We have some bullet points of maybe things we want to hit on, but they're only just like a handful of words. And it's only like 3 points for a whole hour. And we were very, very structured feeling in the beginning, and we didn't have our true voice coming out. It wasn't until recently, maybe the last year and a half, we're just like, screw it. Like, this is us. You're going to get us in our raw form. Like if you were to meet us anywhere in a bar, like that's how you're going to get us on the podcast.
Well, because then you can have a conversation that actually flows. Like, I think sometimes people get stuck and I've got to ask this question, but he's talking about this right now. And how do I get him back to this? And then it's just like this thing where you're really not even in a conversation. You're not listening to your guest. And I think it's true. I personally prefer the flow, like just getting in the flow, knowing something about your guest. Yes. I like to research them. It depends on the guest. Like if it's something really technical and science-based, I want to know what I want to ask. But something like from the heart or just a conversation like this, I think it's better just to go with that flow.
100%. And that's exactly how we do our interviews too. It's usually there's like one key thing we want to solve with that guest or piece of content or whatever we put out. We always have a goal in mind. It's like our North Star. But it's like how we get there, shoot, I don't know. We'll figure out our way there. We're going to make sure you're going to achieve that thing, but it's going to be a flowing conversation. Yeah.
Well, I think stuff just kind of happens if you let it flow. Like, because I love the name of your podcast, Hustle and Flowchart. And it's weird that the flow is coming up right now. Yeah. But I was in flow when I was at PodFest and I met you. Right. We were running behind and we didn't realize how popular your talk was going to be. There were
Me either.
just spilling out into like the hallways. And here I come. I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm not even going to be able to sit down in here. And I got in the line on the left and I noticed she decided to start seating a few people. And I was one of the last ones that she said she would seat. And she put me here. I'm like, oh my God, I'm not even going to be able to sit down. Right in the front, the freaking front, right? Not in the front
was you.
row.
That's right.
But like right across, there you are. There I am.
You're like, perfect.
Like, how did that happen? I'm like, that's good. And then my husband texted me and said, that's why it pays to be early. I'm like, well, what are you talking about? I'm sitting in the best seat.
I know, right? Yeah, there's people that were definitely early and they're sitting in the back. That was an insane time. Thank you so much for attending because we knew it was going to be big and we didn't know it was going to be that big. We had pictures of it and we're like, holy moly.
Oh my God. And I have so many notes that I took. Well, I don't know if you guys can see. Oh, you can't see it online. I was going to show you. I'm being like my mother now. But I had so many notes because they gave such great content on, doing a podcast, how to get your podcast out there, all the strategies. A lot of this will be in your Evergreen thing that you're giving out, but
yep. Yeah, we'll make sure that, and I can share the slides too, if that's helpful from that presentation.
Oh yeah, that would be great because it was so much info. I was just trying to get it all down. And it was so good. I think, sometimes things like that tend to be, I don't want to say boring, but they can be boring when people talking about things you don't understand and it's all this technical stuff. And you guys were so you kept us on the edge of our seat. Really, seriously, it was good.
I'm happy it came across as well as we wanted it to because the way that we present we don't really have much we have a plan, of course, but it might be like you saw it, there was just one line and then we just riffed about it. And it's usually a fire hose of information. If you're gonna get us speaking or on your podcast or whatever, we'll prepare you for it. But we're like, okay, strap in because you take a handful of things max, but because you're not going to do them all, at least not all at once.
Oh no, I was like, oh my God, you could be an overwhelm.
Totally. Yeah.
But the thing is there was so much great stuff. And I liked a lot of your community builders because I think a lot of us out there are unsure about building a community,
Hmm.
how to go about it, because, that does create more impact. What are some ways that people can create community? I know you had this wine and beer, like,
Yeah.
kind of thing that you do. Can you tell everybody?
Yeah. Yeah. So that's a cool one. Yeah. Thanks for bringing that up. It's something we call overtime. This derived from years ago, but during traffic and conversion, which summit that's usually held in San Diego, it was postponed this year. It should be actually starting today at the time of this recording. And that brings over almost 10,000 people.
Oh my gosh,
It's
that's
massive.
fabulous.
Yeah. So what we do is every year for the last 3 years, we hold an event at a brewery downtown San Diego. So it's only like half mile from the location of the summit. And we'll brew beer on their system. So we kind of got in because we know some brewers around town here. And they allow us to brew like a legit batch of beer, bunch of beer. And essentially we serve it at our party 2 weeks later. So, during the TNC event, I think we'll go like the middle day, a Wednesday, because it starts on Tuesday, so it'd be a Wednesday. So tomorrow is going to be our party, and
I
it's
understand that feeling.
yeah. I mean, we're all there, but like it's a free ticket, or you just show up. But the idea is you buy a beer, and it's just a big community. And last 2 years, I think, well, last year was about 500 people cycling in and out of a brewery for free. But like what we did is we made sure that our podcast was front and center. The partners that we do this with, we have a handful of partners. They don't care about being public about it. So everybody kind of sees it as the Joe and Matt party, which is kind of cool because we're like, they're
Well,
just there for the
yeah.
beer. We're there for the community and the beer.
Right. Well, I think I love it because it's so organic, it's so real, it's so authentic.
Mm.
People feel relaxed around it. Now, if you were all uptight about it and it was, rather this tea party where we have to, I think people wouldn't be like into it.
Not at all. And that's not our style either way. Like our style is, it's fun. It's kind of like that presentation. Like it was it was prepared well in advance. It was not a rushed thing at all. But like when we got up there, we didn't really rehearse it. Like
Yeah.
we know our stuff and it's
Right.
going to come out, natural.
Yeah.
Any presentation we do, that's usually how it is. We did this live stream on Friday and had thousands of people see it by now. And we said straight up, we don't know what the hell we're doing. We're flying by the seat of our pants. It might look pretty good, and we're totally honest. And like, we're not going to hide the fact that this is our first time ever doing something like that.
I love it though. People probably were excited. They felt part of something new and different.
Yep.
And
Yep.
it was
Yep.
real. There again, I think people like real.
Mm-hmm. And that's the thing. That's how our podcast has become, is like, yeah, the authenticity. Like we don't have it in our mind that like we need to be authentic now. It's like, no, we're just hanging out with our friends. Like we see a podcast audience just like you chatting now and everyone listening. Like I just see myself, I'm always in a party and I'm just talking to someone I like, one of my friends. And then there happens to be some other people around that are kind of listening in. And if you just like frame that really with any content you create, you're just talking to your buddies. Like just talk normal. Just like record the video to your customers like they're your friend. And don't build it up bigger than that, because that's literally all life is. We're just communicating and being cool with each other and helping each other out. I mean, at the end of the day, that's what it comes down to, and just have fun with it.
I think, you're hitting on something. Like, I feel like when I have my best conversations and my best time with a guest, then that's my highest listened to podcast. It was totally organic and you're just letting go and there's charisma and you're connecting. And gosh, when two like world shakers get together, or fire breathing dragons, or motivators,
Yeah,
inspiring people, it creates fireworks and it creates this chemistry that people love to be a part of.
totally. And that's the thing. We all have the power to do that. And it doesn't matter if like we're all stuck in our houses or if there's some crazy pandemic going on. It's like, yeah, cool. All right. Well, you can't really control this virus. You can't control the economy. You can't control all this stuff out of your two hands, basically. You can't really control much in life, actually. So you might as well surround yourself with some cool people
Right.
and do your best work. And,
Yeah.
don't hold back. Just be you.
Right. Always, right?
Yeah, always.
And when people are getting, out there and they're feeling like a little bit lonely,
Hmm.
what do you suggest like they do to get create better connections? Because that's what you seem to do well, is create connection.
Yeah. I mean, it really comes down to being proactive and not sitting on the sidelines, like we said earlier, and actually just picking up the phone and texting someone. If texting is easier, just do that to start. Like I do that for birthdays, for instance. Like when I see someone's birthday on Facebook pop up, I'm not going to go on their wall and say happy birthday unless I don't have their phone number or something. But then I'd probably go to their PM box. But I'm going to pick up my phone and then I'm going to be like, I'm going to send them a text and just, a simple thing. Now I'd probably just do a video because I know it's just as much effort, if not less, and the impact is
Right.
much
Yeah.
more.
It's almost less.
Yeah, but the impact's way more. So like things like that, that's actually what kind of started this whole personalization thing for me, is get out of the herd way of communicating, which is typically on social media, on comments where, hey, all right, like. It's like, no. Get out of all that noise, pick up a phone or any personalized way of communicating, and immediately, it doesn't matter who it is. Like it could be a big name celebrity, even. You have way more chances of like getting on their radar if you send them an Instagram message rather than a comment, or hit them on multiple channels if you really want to, or send them something cool, like some ideas of how to improve things. I mean, all these things are just being proactive. If you feel like you're in the dumps, that's the thing that'll immediately get you out and motivated to move, is just like these little steps, just reaching out. And there's something, and this is a kind of a different idea, but James Altucher, he's been on our show. He's a pretty big name dude. So he's around a lot now, and he's very he has a cool process every morning where he writes down 10 ideas just to kind of jog his creative mind. But they're usually ideas for other people. So what he'll do is he'll literally just like write down 10 business ideas or personal ideas, anything that is helpful, and he'll like text that person, or maybe he'll email that person. He said this is how he got on Google's radar, Amazon's radar, to do basically consulting with them. But it was just because he found a person that would actually benefit from these ideas, and he shared them free and no strings attached, just giving, just to kind of like, it was more of a self-serving thing, I think, to be creative for himself. But then he's like, yeah, here you go, maybe this will help you out. And any of us can do that with our clients, with anybody that we're trying to get work. Maybe we're not getting money in the door now, but like during this kind of downtime where everyone is consuming a lot more, now's a pretty good time to like sit and think and start solving problems for people, and then send it to them and see what happens. I mean, like literally, you'll probably start opening doors when no one else is doing this kind of thing because you're proactive. And shoot, when money's flowing, or maybe, I mean, money's always out there. So it's like, you never know what doors will open. I'm doing that right now every day for people, and it works. It's great.
Yeah, just finding the solution. Or I think sometimes people don't realize what that their strengths and their gifts, that they have them because they come so naturally to you. But if you just start paying attention to what doesn't come natural to others,
Hmm.
like what is your wheelhouse? What are people recognizing you for? What are people coming to you for? And you start thinking about those things, because I think people are so close to themselves, they can't always see their gifts.
That's true. And that's where journaling helps me, at least, to, just, you can even do this. We have a buddy, Rich Sheffrin, who he has a journaling practice that basically it's called sentence stems. So essentially it's something like, all right, so if I were to solve this problem, I would dot, 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 and then just start listing every potential thing. Or it's like, I'm really good at ... and then just going to town on that page. And I would literally use, pen and paper. And you never know what kind of weird things we'll uncover. We'll probably start with the obvious, but then it'll get down and be like, oh, people really connect with me well, or I'm really good at reaching out to folks and starting a communication with them. Oh, and that leads to trust, and people buy from me more, and then they refer others to me. And then I had this business that now took off because I'm just reaching out to people. And it's like, you can like uncover all these like weird things that you didn't know you're really good at, these innate talents, just through journaling or that sentence stem idea.
Wow. And I would just say you feel like my best friend already. So I feel like you have this so like, I'm going to say guy next door, just super cool, super like chill vibe, super nice, and just like yourself. And it makes people, I bet it draws people to you because of it.
I think so. And I'm happy. I don't know how, to be very honest, but that's just what I do.
I just think
But
it's because you're nice and you're friendly and you're kind and you don't hide it under a bushel. You just be who you are. And I think so many of us can learn from that, because a lot of us are, like in my podcast at the beginning, it says to be who we were created to be instead of who others want us to be.
yeah, that's
And
right.
so like, I think you can learn a lot from just being that person that you are.
Yeah,
Like,
no, it's so true.
inside.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I feel like thanks for noticing that. And it didn't come out it wasn't obvious to me, I guess, until I started really journaling and listening to others and actually accepting what you just said. Like before, I'd be like, yeah, that's cool, sure, whatever. I'd be like, happy face, but yeah, like think about, for everyone listening, there's probably these things being said about them, like, oh my God, the way that you're so systematic about things and blah, 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 and or teach like my co-host, Matt, these are the comments he gets. And I think for the longest time, he wasn't totally aware of those, but that's why we get on as a really good business, basically partnership and co-host. He has a different way of thinking and I have a different approach. He has a different approach, but we all have these special skills if we kind of listen to ourselves and our thoughts and slow down and listen to others, like you just said. Just go deeper into what you're really good at. Don't try to change yourself. Just kind of lean into what you got going on. That's really good.
Yeah, I think sometimes, like, and even in this space or whatever space you're in, people can have shiny objects, flashy, this person's like connecting over here, being this super like flamboyant person.
Yeah.
Like, and like my friend I talked about in my speech at PodFest, she wanted a t-shirt really bad at this booth. We were at this fitness expo, and the guy said no. And she's like, oh no, I get what I want. So she like starts
Ooh.
doing triple backflips and draws a crowd to his booth, and she's up in his hand, and everybody's coming, and like she turns to me at the end, she's like, I get what I want. And I'm like, I guess you do. I guess you do. But I'm just like, she was flamboyant, and she's like, but that's not me, like, right? So
Me either.
I asked the guy later, I was like, hey Steve, how would a person get a t-shirt? Because I thought, I really don't want a t-shirt that bad, but I just wanted to, like, and he says, oh, I would have nothing. I would have just given it to you.
Just ask. You don't have to be this crazy show.
Yeah, right. But like, I think we can get distracted by like people's dreams or their flashiness or what we see out there. And if you just really find out what your strengths are and play to those, that's the best wheelhouse, I think, for everyone to stay in.
Yeah, no, you're totally right. You lean into what your skills are, and it's easier to change a business or strategy tactics rather than yourself. So like, really understand yourself and then build your business and life around that. And I think good things will happen, and it's not going to feel like a struggle bus either. Like you're going to kind of flow with it all. It'll be natural.
Just like you guys have been with your podcast and like everything else that you've done. It's amazing. What would you say is the proudest thing or moment that has happened out of all of this that you've had?
I would say, with the podcast as the thing, it's opened up so many interesting doors for networking. It's like this automated networking tool. I'm sure you experience very similar things. We have a Dream 100 list that basically is attached to every one of my emails. It's in my signature. It's this process I use with Google Sheets, and it attaches as an attachment. It automates referrals basically for me. I don't really even have to ask for them. And on that list, I have these superstars like Elon Musk, Ellen DeGeneres. I mean, all these like Oprah, big name folks.
Oh yeah, there you go. I drink them too.
Hey, but then 50% of it are people that are like maybe one person away. Like someone in my network probably is connected to them. So it's like 50-50. And so Roland Frazier, who's an owner of Digital Marketer, is a good friend of ours. And he was the one that actually gave us this idea. And I gave him the list. And this is before I figured out, you can actually put it in your email footer, and then it's like, you can automate this thing. I just took it a step further. But I gave that list to Roland, and the next day he sent me 25 introductions to these people that were like, oh my God.
Oh my gosh, that's awesome.
Yeah, and that literally spurred like this whole, snowball of just connections to people that we never thought we would get unless we like really worked hard, or we had to somehow woo them into our world. But like, we had Dave Asprey on the show. It was one of the guys from Bulletproof, and he turned out to be an amazing guy. And we had a great hour-long interview with him. I'm like, how am I going to get an hour long with a guy like that who's running all these companies, worldwide brand, and like now I can call him. I wouldn't say that we kept a really close relationship because he is a very busy guy, but we had an hour-long conversation with the guy. And it's like people that have to pay. It's basically kind of like free consulting in a way too sometimes, because you kind of go selfish a little bit with the podcast. So, I mean, at the end of the day, I think the biggest thing that I've loved are these doors have now opened, and these people are my peers now. I can call on them for any kind of questions I might have, or like we're doing a live stream like last week. I just gave them text messages and they all said yes, everyone I asked. And that was 10 people, just like a snap of a finger, they were there. And it all started from the podcast and just really opened up doors to partnerships, being affiliates. Now there's amazing people we're now doing business with on levels that we never, like a year ago, there was no way that yeah. So things can happen really quick.
And I love that. And I remember when I first met Paul C. Brunson, who's been on the podcast, he was talking, his whole speech was about that one of the ways to move ahead is to be introduced by somebody like, I don't know, you were just saying Dave Asbury, he introduces you to his audience, or he comes on and that's like an endorsement in a way, because he's an influencer, and it puts you like at a whole new level.
That's 100% it. And that's where it just makes everything, it stacks upon each other, So I thought it was crazy to put like people like, just like Oprah, for instance, on that list. But now, and what's actually is an interesting thing is Elon Musk, we've had 2 people actually say, well, actually, what's interesting is my wife's partner at work or whatever, or colleague actually talks to Elon, once a week. And like, maybe there's an in there. Like you start to find all these like weird little gaps, and you start to realize you're actually connected to pretty much everyone on this planet way closer than you think, unless you ask and put it out there. And now the more connections we're getting, and then the referrals from people that have been on our show, because we're always asking for referrals and kind of stepping up, like they're actually not that far off. I would give it another year, and I would probably say, or less, and we'll have a lot of those big name rock stars, superstars that we thought were untouchable. They'll be on the show. I'm pretty dang confident.
You know what? I'll have to connect you with somebody when we get off here that I think could introduce you to Oprah.
There you go. Thank you.
I didn't even think of asking them, but like they are BFFs with them, and they've been on my show. So I'm like,
my gosh. I mean, there you go. So thank you. And it's things like that. You never know.
There you go. Oh my gosh. This has been a great conversation today.
Thank you.
What are some simple tips you could leave with the audience for them to move forward from here? Just simple tips with the strategy.
So I would say simple is So with the strategy, the podcast strategy, or I would say not even podcast, just communication and thinking. I would slow down for one. Don't be reactive right now. Don't feel like you have to go, like take a breath and slow down. I'm talking to myself a little bit because I'm the hustle of the hustle and flow chart. So
Okay, yeah, I've
uh,
been like over hustling, like overdoing too many things.
yeah, a lot of us are, and you're not alone.
Uh-huh.
But you got to slow down and almost like take a look around the landscape and look for how to help people, like just solve people's problems and connect with them on a like genuine level, not a mass broadcast. So if you slow down and listen and be a sponge and then figure out how to act, like, oh, I'm going to go communicate with my top customers because these are the people that are bringing my livelihood in, but I want to serve them too. I would say that is a strategy to focus on right now, is community building, one-to-one personalization when it feels like it's out of the blue, because it is. Like that's how you stand out. And that's it. And then just be very methodical with your actions. Don't try to react right now.
Yeah, I think like what you're saying, one of the things I did recognize from all of this is just because there's not as much noise, I'll say, I
Mm-hmm.
have been able to hone in on things more and be more focused, I think, just more
Nice.
like if your world is a little smaller, so
Yeah.
the time you could zero in your focus on some things.
Yeah. It's a good time to say no too and start chopping some stuff that doesn't serve you. Like,
Oh, there you go.
be it expenses or just time. I mean, really more so is all the things that you were saying yes to automatically without thinking it through, just because and we all do this in certain ways. It just start to, again, slow down and assess what's really on your plate. Does that really serve me right now? Does it serve my community? Like, if it doesn't, just say no. It's not going to kill anybody. And it might bum them out if you commit it, but like, okay, well, show up to things that you actually commit and you think you're going to serve good. But yeah, start chopping a little bit.
I
It's
love
going to
it. I
feel
love
better.
it. Chop a few things off. Like
It'll
just
go a
like,
long
no,
way.
no, no.
Yeah, yeah.
That's awesome. This has been a great
Good.
conversation, and I just want to thank you so much for coming on. Can you tell
Thank you.
everybody the link for
Yeah.
them? Okay.
Yeah. So it's not super related, and I wish it were, but so a lot of our community building and podcasting, all that stuff, you need traffic and you need attention to get people to your thing, whatever that is. So we have a book. It's a free guide that's called the Evergreen Traffic Playbook, and it lines out how we do that. And then it also has something like 20 other people of how they do traffic, basically like all these different perspectives and insights you can swipe. So it's free. It's at hustleandflowchart.com/sweat. So
I love
hustleandflowchart.com/sweat.
because you
Yeah.
know we're all about sweat here.
Especially on
It
podcasting.
is a sisterhood of sweat here.
I know it is. Yeah, and I'm
Um,
happy to be the dude that shows up here.
Geez, somebody's calling me.
Uh-oh.
I thought I turned that off. Okay, well,
So
at least they waited to the end,
that's true. And
right?
also I'll give you those PodFest slides too that we are referencing. Maybe you could just put them in the show notes or something. I'll send you a link about that.
That's fantastic. That's
Yeah.
everybody. You can make sure to check out the playbook and the slides. And I believe I was checking the playbook out earlier. It is
Nice.
really good and worth reading, guys. So make sure you check that out. And thanks again to Joe for coming on the show. And bye, everybody. Have a great day.